Hey guys, it's KJ from Beyond My Expectations, and I'm here today with our interns, George and Ethan. And we have a special guest today, Coach Dawson, and he is with Broughton High School. So just recently, we're trying to figure out what exactly are some of the needs for athletes. What are some of the things that they would like to do? I mean, we know the options that are available there for practice and training, but what else can be done, and what do they want? So George created a survey. Go George, go George. And then he and Ethan collaborated on some questions that we can ask Coach Dawson, just interviewing, following up, and to everything that happened. So George, I'm talking too much. You go. Tell me.
Yeah, yeah. So we created a survey to basically ask around like 6 questions, basically to see how the players are just exercising more off the field than on the field. Because of course, on the field, the coaches have a certain routine, a certain plan for you to go through to make sure that you're in shape for the season. But what are they doing when they don't? When they're not in season, when they're by themselves? So one of the questions was, do you have a gym membership? And 67% out of like 43 responses were taken from this, and out of this 67% said that they did not have a gym membership, which they did, I'm sorry, they did have a gym membership. I'm sorry. And then our next question is, do you work out with a sibling? And 71% of players said that they did not work out with a sibling, and of the 27% that did say they did work with a sibling, only 32% of those people said that their siblings were at the same level, meaning that if they're an athlete, like a D1 athlete, then they're at the same level as their D1 athlete. Or if they play football at a high level, then then their siblings may play like soccer, or maybe they may do track at a high level. That's what they mean by at the same level. And of the 43% of responses, 75% of players said that running, like racing against family and friends, is important to each other, just for the competition aspect. You're always running. You never want to run by yourself, because then motivating yourself is important, but running with the other people might seem more. It might get you more excited. You might do it more. So yeah. And then for the more opportunities to race, so if we didn't have as many opportunities to race, we asked would they like more opportunities, and 70% of players said that they would like more opportunities to compete and race. And finally, for our last question, it was, if you had basically like a gym schedule for like football players, if you would have like a schedule to go to for practice, would you show up? And 81% of players said that they would show up for those. So one of my questions for Coach Dawson would be, going back to the first question, the gym membership. Is it important for an athlete, any athlete or anybody, to have a gym membership? Do you think?
Certainly helpful. Um, I think that might be difficult for some families in terms of either affording the membership or being able to get to the gym. If you don't have a car period or enough cars during the day. But yeah, I mean, gosh, you want to be in the gym as much as you can if you want to be a competitive athlete. That's why we basically require all of our football players to take weight training at school with me. So I have them in the weight room every other day for 90 minutes. And then we lift, of course, as you know, over the course of the summer, 4 days a week. And then we have tried to provide, like particularly over the pandemic when gyms weren't open and the school wasn't open, resources for guys to do home workouts, right? So that started like just sending out, here's a description of what you can do 5 sets of 20 push-ups, and then do this and that. And then we found we paid for an app basically, where these people can take you through a whole 3 months worth of body weight exercises, and you have a progression and all of that stuff. So that was a long way of answering your question. I think the most important thing is that you figure out a way to work out. And we have guys who can do that basically year round without a gym membership, because they can do it at school almost year round. But it certainly is convenient when we're on Christmas break or the 2 weeks in the summer that we can't work out at the school, or it just helps if you have access to a gym.
Coach, let me ask something. First of all, I just want to say thank you once again for your kindness in taking the survey and working with us through this process to find more information out about sports and athletes and their needs. Quick question. You said that you've done extensive work with regards to the app and giving exercises and allowing additional hours in the gym. Why?
Well, use it or lose it would be the simplest way to explain it, right? So if they get a lot stronger over the course of a school year for 9 months, but then they don't lift for 3 months in the summer, they're going to quickly lose a lot of the gains that they had. It takes a long time to get stronger and a very short time to get weaker. So we just want them to be consistently in the way. It's nice to take a week off, around the holidays, or maybe go somewhere in the summer, but you need to be lifting most of the time in order to progress.
So you're talking about with the muscle memory and that kind of stuff, right?
Well, not just muscle memory, but hypertrophy, which is what happens when your muscles are getting bigger, can only happen if you are challenging your muscles and damaging your muscle fibers in new and different ways. That's how you get bigger. And then muscle memory, that helps, especially with some of the more complex lifts, compound movements, Olympic lifts and stuff. You need to teach your body the right way to do it. I think of that more as, when I think of muscle memory, I think more often about the stuff we're asking them to do on the field, the techniques we ask them to execute. That's why we have to practice them over and over and over and over again.
Hypertrophy word, that was kind of cool. I learned a new word today.
Yeah.
I'm gonna Google and use it a couple times. So get ready, George and Ethan.
Yeah, it is the opposite of atrophy, right? So we think of atrophy like when you break an arm and they put a cast on, and 3 months later you take it off and you have a tiny shriveled little arm because you haven't used the muscles in your arm.
Wow.
But it can happen just from staying out of the weight room for too long. Like, you don't shrivel up, but you lose. Like, if you were to take a tape measure and measure your chest and your biceps, and you would shrink. You would lose muscle mass.
So do you recommend them doing this with a team member or by themselves? Like, what seems to work best as far as motivation right now?
I think it's way easier with a team member. I teach, we have about 120, 130 guys in our program. I have almost 100 in my weight training classes, which run throughout the year. And we have 32 kids in each class, and we have 8 racks where they can work out. So there's 4 kids at a rack, and it works way better when you have a spotter, so from a safety standpoint, but B, guys get fired up and push each other and compete, and I think that's a lot more effective than lifting on your own. But like, over a pandemic, everybody had to lift on their own. On a weekend, you might not be able to find anybody to lift with, so you need to be able to train on your own as well.
Mm-hmm.
Well, was it a challenge for you, George and Ethan?
Yeah, especially in the initial quarantining. You weren't allowed to go out and see friends. All the gyms and buildings were closed, so you really had to find home workouts that you could do. And then some people don't have weights. I fortunately did have smaller weights. I had like 10 and 12 pound weights, so I was able to do technique based exercises, but a lot of heavy weightlifting ones I was unable to do.
Yeah, and for me, it was just it was the realization that I might not be able to play football that year when it first started, because later that year we had our football season like pushed back basically, and we weren't promised anything. So for me, it was mostly just getting outside, practicing the little things, like Ethan said, technique based. I was just practicing some football stances, doing some push-ups. Mostly mine was more body weight because I never really had any weights on me. So I would just work on push-ups, sit-ups, squats, anything that I could really do to stay active, because I wanted to be prepared for the next football season if it did come, which it did come during the summer.
With all this in mind, Coach, because I'm hearing the independents, I'm hearing that 67% of individuals have gym membership. I'm hearing that 81% would go even if it were scheduled time. If they had 1 hour to work out, they would still hit that target and make sure they were on time.
Right.
is there anything that you think is missing in this process to help individuals with strengthening? Are there any opportunities?
I mean, I think is this population of people, George, just from our team that were interviewed, or is this?
Yes, this is just our team.
Yeah.
And 43 people of our team.
Okay. So I'm surprised, that 62/3 have gym memberships. That's higher than I would have guessed. I think far and away the biggest problem we face during the summer is just transportation. I think most of the guys who aren't coming to the workouts, it's because it's really difficult for them to get to the workouts, and they have to rely on other people on the team, or some of our guys even Uber sometimes to work out. So
wow,
that's the biggest thing, and that's because the buses don't run in the summer. It's easier in the school year, but even then, when they stay after school and we're there into the night practicing, there's no buses to take them home. So just from a participation standpoint, and that includes more than weightlifting, but practicing and all the stuff that we do, transportation is the number one obstacle.
Yeah. And then I was surprised about the gym. This is my first time hearing it too. I was surprised about the gym memberships, because one of the things that I kept hearing and reading about is that individuals were a little flustered because they did not have an opportunity to cross train, et cetera. So we did a couple of cross training exercises with some training experts, just to give people some tools that they can use in the interim.
Right.
So with the cross training and the muscle atrophy, beyond transportation, have you heard of anything or seen anything that could help, or another opportunity for growth? Whether it be with physical activity or whether it be with the planning process. So
yeah, I mean, I think if I'm doing my job by providing them with home workouts, which again was at the first 3 or 4 months of the pandemic. And I know we're not just talking about the pandemic, we're talking about life now, which sadly is still affected by that. But it was just, here, I'm typing up these workouts and emailing to you. And if you didn't know how to do some of the work, like if you didn't know, well, I don't know how to do a split squat or whatever this is, then that could be an impediment. Once we started using the app, and it was like you had a video coach, it was like, here's the workout. And then for every single workout, you could click a link and it was YouTube, and these trainers would show you how to do it. That was pretty cool. At that point, you're only, the only two really limiting factors are, one, motivation, right? Just do guys feel like doing it? Especially like George mentioned, when it wasn't clear if we were going to play or not. I heard some players say, I'm not doing anything because I don't think we're going to play. And, there's a lot of reasons why I disagreed with that rationale for not working out, but I understood it. And then two would be, do you get Wi-Fi? Most kids are using their phones for this. And, but a lot of our kids who are of lower socioeconomic status, their phone does not have a plan on it. So they're not paying for like a monthly or yearly plan, so that they can't call anybody on their phone. They can only hook up to Wi-Fi. They use it like a laptop or something. But if there's no Wi-Fi at home and you don't get a signal on your phone, then an app with videos connected to it isn't very helpful.
And that's where the buddy system would probably be important too. Like if you have teammates that you can work out with or exercise with.
Right.
Yeah. So I will say this, and then I want George and Ethan to ask some questions too. I had interviewed a coach previously, Coach Hood. I don't know if you know who he is, but when I was talking to Coach Hood, he said that one of his challenges is that he has coached them, not coach, I don't know what you call it. Like, I want to say interviewed, but that's try out. He's had some very, very good athletes try out, and they have good skill set, but they don't have, I'm going to say manageable skills, but that's not necessarily the word. Like they're not coachable. Like you can't. Yeah. Do you know what I'm saying?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Those are the hardest kids to deal with. Yeah. They're on every team. You know, they exist outside of teams and businesses and stuff too, I'm sure. But yeah, keep going. Uncoachable kids are really frustrating because you keep trying to impart to them that you're trying to help them, which truly you are, right? Like you can't get better without coaching, or whatever you want to call it, critical feedback, constructive criticism. You just can't get better without it. Not just athletes, but at anything in life. If there's no one saying, okay, here's what you're doing well, but here's what you need to work on, then you're suffering because of that. But kids who are uncoachable for whatever reason have a hard time believing you when you say that.
So imagine an objective measurement, something objectively stating that, you know, this person's doing better than this person's doing, or this is the level you should be at, right?
Right.
Level you could be at. So
Right.
maybe if it's objective, they would be more receptive to it versus, you know, human, because they might be like, well, you know, coach just doesn't like me anyway, or coach likes the other person better.
Right. I think, yeah, it turns, that is often how they feel about it. It's not about getting better. It's about whether he likes me or not.
Right.
It would be different. Yeah. I mean, objectivity is always helpful. That's why like a sport like track or swimming is nice, because you can just say, no. It's not about whether I like you or not. Like here is the time you're running, and it's not fast enough to qualify for our relay team because these other 4 people all ran a faster time than that. There's no, it's not because I like them better. It's because they're faster and we can prove it. It's harder in sport. Most sports, like team sports, don't work that way. It's harder to quantify. It can be done, but yeah.
Right. Hey guys, George, Ethan, what are you guys thinking? Coaches said a lot.
Yes, he has, and personally, I was thinking more of a off-season standpoint because I know we're talking a lot about during the season, and I prepared during the season. But I know personally, coach, after the season end, he encourages us to play a different sport, to do basically anything that cross-trains your body, and just to make sure that you're always staying in shape. So, how important is it to really cross-train your body and to work during the off season and during in season?
Oh man, I'm glad you mentioned that. I'm a huge advocate of playing multiple sports. I think it's really, I get really upset with parents or coaches who encourage kids to only play one sport year round. They become more injury prone because of overuse injuries, and then I just think they get burnt out a lot more often. Those kids sometimes don't really love what they're doing because it's all they do.
Mm-hmm.
And then I think, but like, let's say you're primarily a football player. That's your thing. You want to do that in college. Well, we can design a year-round program for you that beyond weight training includes, you know, agility and reaction and a lot of stuff on a, you know, out on a field that that helps you improve as a football player. But man, if you were just go out and play lacrosse, you'd get way more of it than what we're providing you with.
Yeah.
Plus, you'd have more fun. Plus, you'd be competing in an environment where there's a winner and a loser. And all of those are things that are going to help you be a better football player.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
So the win-lose measurement is key.
Well, I think it helps a lot of people play harder if there's a scoreboard, you know.
Yeah, the competition aspect of it, yes.
You can go through a whole workout, like we work out all summer, and we have the kids in the weight room, and then we go out on the field and we put them through drills, and some of the guys respond well to that and some of the guys don't, because you're not going to get we're not going to award anyone first place that day. Your team's not going to win anything that day. It's a little more long-term delayed gratification. You just have to believe that what you're doing all summer is going to help you win in the fall, but you're not getting to see a scoreboard. Whereas if you're playing, you know, lacrosse in the spring 2 or 3 times a week, you play another school and there's a scoreboard, and you know, I think people, particularly teenage boys, respond really well to competition that is clearly defined, immediate feedback kind of thing.
Hey, look, Chris, all people respond well to immediate feedback. I mean,
Yeah.
So,
I had a question actually. So one question that I was thinking about was, you've been talking a lot about lacrosse being a great sport for cross training. Would you say that there is like one specific sport that is really good for football players in general, or would you say that it depends player by player on their different needs?
I think it depends a little bit player by player. I think lacrosse and football go particularly well together because they have a lot of common skill sets. They're both physical kind of contact sports. They're played on a big grass field where you have to mark people and defend people in open space. But yeah, I spent 10 years teaching and coaching in Baltimore, and like the lacrosse capital of the world. And a lot of my friends said, no, it's more like basketball lacrosse is. It's like fast breaks and this and that and this and that. But I think lacrosse is a good one. I think especially for the linemen, wrestling is probably the best thing they can do in terms of learning how to use leverage to move people, even people who might be bigger than they are. And it's like, I mean, wrestling is a lot harder than football. If people think football is hard, wrestling is really requires a person to be comfortable with discomfort, and every day you get tested to your kind of physical limits in wrestling. It's why I never wrestled. That doesn't appeal to me at all, but I know it's good for people. I love basketball. I coached basketball for 10 years. I think basketball is great for every position group, including big guys, right? Like when you're sliding and playing defense in the post, that's a lot like pass protecting in football. So I think probably every sport lends itself well, but I played baseball all through high school and I love baseball. That doesn't, unless you're throwing the ball, like you're the quarterback, I don't know that baseball is you should play it if you like it. I mean, we have a lot of football guys who play it, and I love baseball. But compared to some of the other sports we talked about, there's a much smaller overlap of applicable movements,
Skills,
motions,
techniques and stuff.
Yeah.
Okay. And then another question that I had. So as someone who doesn't play football, I've always been curious as to whether, because football has different positions, you know, whether they're on offense or defense, and each player has their own specific goal in each play. Is it better for a player to prioritize in a specific section, whether like cardio or weight training, et cetera, or to be a more like well-rounded player?
I think well-rounded. What is unique about football, and it's true at every position on the field, is that it is, I can't think of another sport that has a more unique work-rest interval. Like when you're playing soccer or basketball, you pretty much move the whole game. A lot of times you're not moving as fast as you can, but you don't just stand still. In football, you play for about 6 seconds, and then it's usually 30 or 40 seconds before you play another 6 seconds. So going for a jog is not at all helpful for football players in terms of, I mean, it might be good for them cardiovascularly, but it's not good. It doesn't help them on a football field at all, because there's never a time where you want to exert. Jogging is pretty low level of energy, just sustained over a really long time. There's never a time where you want to just kind of go 30% of your maximum speed and effort on a football field. Like you're going 100% for 6 seconds, which is really taxing, but then you get a long time to rest and recover before the next play.
Just like in reference, it's better to practice your sprinting rather than it is long distance.
Yeah, you want to sprint. You want the best thing you can do to get ready for a season is sprint for about 6 seconds, which might be 60 yards, and then rest for 40 seconds. And if you sprint longer, like if you want to sprint the whole field and go 100 or 120, now you're resting a minute. Or if you want to go shorter, like 10-yard or 20-yard sprint, now you're resting for 20 or 30 seconds.
So you got to keep it proportionate to the distance.
Yeah, but that's the kind of world you want to live in, as opposed to, say, go run 4 miles. Like that's great, but that doesn't help you. For football, again, it's great for you from a lifestyle perspective, but
Right. So what you're talking about is like that explosion thing that was explained to me, that,
Yeah.
players have to be able to explode on the, on call or on,
yeah,
at
yeah.
the whistle. So I just, while you were talking, I was taking notes. I try to take notes on everything. I was that kid that sat in the front of my class and took notes on everything. Yes, that was me. So, no, well, my mother was a teacher. And so because my mother was a teacher, she would call my teachers and say, what did Kelly do today? So yeah, so I had to take notes. So I wanted to list some of the things that you said. Oh God, now I can't even read my handwriting. So you mentioned that objectivity is important, cross-training, transportation, working with partners is good. Over by, I don't know, this is over by in strategy theory.
I don't,
I don't know. I don't know. Delayed
gratification.
Delayed gratification. Thank you. You read my notes.
Yeah.
And also I think you were mentioning like a little bit of the total functional mobility, like making sure that you are working all parts of the body, everything that's okay. So cool. I think I captured a decent amount, except for that one thing that I just really can't read. I'm like, I don't have my glasses or anything, right? But I'm thinking it says partners over by in strategy theory skills.
I don't know.
Yeah, I can't help you
Oh,
either.
wait. You were saying that the partners are good. The partners are good because it helps them to strategize and develop skills, like certain skills. So for instance, if I'm feeling lax, I'm improvising. I think it was like if I'm feeling lax, then that partner can come in and help me and make sure that I'm continuously growing and developing my skill set versus being lax and giving in because the environment or COVID or whatever is not encouraging me.
Yeah, no, I think that's a great point. I mean, partners are good for motivating you. They're good for holding you accountable. Like, let's say you have a you have a goal to run 5 miles every morning. If you don't have a partner who's running with you and you wake up and you're like, I'm tired, you can just go back to sleep. You're not letting anyone down but yourself. But if you know that someone is meeting you at your front door in 5 minutes, you're going to get your butt out of bed because you don't want to let that person down and have them be upset with you. And you are providing the same kind of accountability mechanism for them. And then, the other thing, especially in a weight room but training for anything, you can't see yourself. You may think, hey, I'm getting down to parallel on the squat. Like I'm doing a great job squatting. And they might look at you and say, hey, you're only getting halfway down and your heels are coming off the floor. Like you need to work on these things, which you would have never. So now you're getting better because you have feedback that you would not have gotten if you just work out by yourself all the time.
Right. So that feedback on your technique, your positioning really, really will help with performance and also probably help with injury.
Yeah, for sure.
Reduce injuries.
Cool. Yeah.
Well, I don't have any more questions. I won most talkative, so I can always think of questions, but right now I'm not gonna ask any more questions. You have an amazing family. I know you want to get back to your family, but guys, did you have anything else for Coach Dawson before he leaves?
So I had one more question, but this one's kind of backtracking a bit, going back to especially after quarantining, COVID and players coming back to being able to practicing at workouts and stuff. So as a coach, are you able to notice the difference between a player who has been conditioning and keeping up consistency with exercise and workouts and then one who hasn't, whether it's during practices, scrimmages, or games?
Yeah.
Of course you can.
That was never more evident than when we came back in January of last year, after having been away for like 10 months at that point, or 9 months. And we didn't have, the school weight room wasn't open for a single one of those days. So it was kind of on, and you could tell some guys had gotten a lot bigger and stronger. And often those were guys who were able to get into a gym after the first 4 or 5 months where they were closed, or we have a handful of kids who's have a weight room in their garage, like the real deal rack with 1,000 pounds of plates, and you know, a bench and all that stuff. And those guys came back and they looked different in a really good way. And then a lot of guys came back and they looked basically the same as you remembered them, because, and they may have been doing all the push-ups and body weight squats we asked them to, but those don't compare. You don't get the same results as you do when you're lifting heavy weight. And then in the summer each year, we have guys show up who've missed most of our workouts or haven't been doing the running and conditioning. And you can see that the first few weeks of practice when, you know, they're cramping up and having a hard time. And the guys who've been around feel fine. So.
What percent is that? What percent is that, would you say, that are ready and versus you can tell that they have a little bit of ways to go before they're ready?
Yeah, I mean, it's a spectrum, because some of the guys are really, really ready and some of the guys are ready, but it's a minority of the guys who aren't at all ready, because we have workouts all summer and there's an expectation that you show up to them. So most guys have been to something. I would say maybe 1 out of 5 players comes in pretty far below the bar of where we would expect or want them to be, or where they would have been if they'd come to all the workouts and committed.
And how does that impact injury or rotation? Player rotation and you know, injury.
It definitely affects player. Those guys are at the back of the line when it comes to competing for a spot, for sure. And then I would assume it puts them at greater risk for injury, because they haven't been preparing like their soft tissues and their ankles and knees and all that stuff to be strong enough. But I haven't like tracked it in a scientific way so that I can tell you for sure that that's the case.
Right. And you know what? And sometimes you don't even know about the injury until they get to college or later on. And it's like, you know what? They weren't doing what they needed to do to be prepared, because like some of those things really don't surface until college, when they're in a, you know, in a larger playing field, or in a playing field where it's more competitive and they can't do half of what they did. They have to do 100% or whatever the percent was. So once again, Coach Dawson, I just want to say thank you so much for your time.
Yeah, my pleasure.
Yeah, and so we're looking forward to a good season for Broughton this year. You ready?
Yes, of course.
First game is
Friday. Yes. Oh,
This
Friday.
Friday?
This Friday. Oh, sorry. Yeah, this Friday.
And who are you playing against?
Does George know?
Is it Green Hope?
It is Green Hope. Yeah.
Yes, of course. I cannot
They're
wait
pretty
for
good,
that
aren't
game.
they?
Traditionally, they've been traditionally pretty strong.
But Broughton
Yes,
is
but we're
stronger.
gonna be better. Yeah, exactly. We're gonna be even
Right?
better. Yes, we're gonna be even
All
better.
right. And where's the game? Is the game at Green Hope or is it at Broughton?
It's at Green Hope. Our stadium and track are being redone, so we won't play a home game until October. So seven road games, no, that's not first. Five away games before our first home game.
Okay.
So it's Broughton High School against Green Hope at Green Hope High School this Friday at what time?
7.
At 7 o'clock. All right. Let's go, Broughton. Let's bring it
Ooh. Cannot wait.
Yeah, well, I might be there too.
Please
so
do.
I want to see.
Love to have you.
So when I go in there, I'm gonna be like, I know Coach Dawson and I know George. Will that help or no?
Oh yeah,
Of course.
You'll get in free. Get to sit on the front row.
Yeah.
So on the front row, if I say I know Coach Dawson.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Well, listen, guys, thank you so much for everything. Coach Dawson, once again, this has been amazing. It has been insightful. Hopefully that this will help some other people along the way, learning some of the things that they can do to be better prepared and better ready for the season. And just really awesome.
Yeah.
All right.
Thank you. Good luck. I hope you get this thing up and running. It looks really cool.
Awesome.
And thank you, Coach, for being here for us.
Yeah.
You're talking about Beyond My Expectations?
Yeah, absolutely.
What did you like about the concept? Since you said it was really cool, what did you like about it?
Well, it looks like a lot of fun. It seems like a great place to bring a group to do team building stuff. It also looks like, it seems like super high tech and innovative. I haven't seen many, some of the things you were showing me before.
Cool. So
Hang on
yeah,
one second. What's that? I know.
aw.
Help you find it. Can't find her computer. Yeah.
So yeah, so I just wanted to show you a sampling of what we're
Yeah,
trying,
looks-
what the
looks
goal
cool.
is with social, physical, cognitive skill strengthening. So team and maybe even for individuals to come and cross train with a buddy.
Yeah, it looks cool.
Excellent.
Mhm.
Well, Coach Dawson, we will be in touch. I might see you Friday night.
Great.
Okay. Thanks
to
again
see
for
you.
everything.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you so
See
much.
guys.
Take
See
care.
you.
See you tomorrow, George.
See you, coach.